hills. Everywhere is gold and sunlight, but still, most private hotels are crowded. There's a dark cloud that's shrouded. They don't smile and they never will. Only God can get this. Yeah. Go running water from year to year. Hearts that no one desire. That if there is a Messiah, someday he hears their whisper. People in a one-bedroom shanty. What's the fell on the pavement? No vacancy, no employment. Cattle firecracker from gunshot. Not just go when things get hot. Afraid to look out the window. To hear voices from the ghetto. Crying, crying. Voices from the ghetto. Voices from the ghetto. Help us, Father. Oh, Lord. Mothers just hold their head up, ball. And them woman stronger than a wall. I think we put her iron she daughter. Son in jail for manslaughter. Too bad for the feeling black boys. No, that's the black man's choice. Like Shadow say, poverty is hell. She little girl child belly start to swell. Some say life is a fight. But don't draw, she not circle. Yeah, we talk and don't need to tell. Outside the siren keep howling. Inside your belly we falling. What's very often? Since the measure you're talking. One night in bed you're sleeping. Next night is a wave that you're keeping. So you're going to win the lotto. Not to hear voices from the ghetto. From the ghetto. Voices from the ghetto. We are not a forgotten people. No. With dented pride, they sold their own. Revolutions, faith, politicians born. And often their tragic story brings a journalist's glory. No one telling you the world on. Since the day they're born, some call them rebels without a cause. These social victims of unjust laws, but yet they christen the heroes, renegades, desperados, forever knocking on heaven's doors. Hear me? Still band music shatters the silence, harmony to conquer the violence. Big men run when cops approach, fighting for scraps with the cockroach. Young Turks, they're tough protecting, almost every young girl expecting. So tomorrow begs tomorrow, there'll be another voice from the ghetto. Crying, Lord, crying.
Got it. Yeah.
Good.
Yeah.
Good evening. Good evening, St. Vincent and the Grenadines. My name is Jomo Thomas. The program you're about to listen to is called Voices. It's the Voices program for July 13, 2026. We have an absolutely new voice tonight. We have Miss Cherise. I never know of this Cherise name, but we have Miss Cherise Latoya Dorishe John. I've known her for many, many years. Um, I know many of you may know her as the head mistress at the girls' high school, but she's not here tonight in that capacity. She is here tonight as a event planner. You may know that Ms. Latoya Dorishe John and her sister Javon have been big event organizers. They are most famously known, I believe, for the Flair event, which occurs here every carnival season. They also, I think, over the last 2 years, they did a New York edition of it. So, Latoya, thank you for coming. I tried to get some people from the Carnival Development Corporation. Mr. Ricky Adams is not able to make it. He's suffering from a cold. I tried to get Mr. Rodney Small, the Chief Executive Officer of the Carnival Development Corporation. He has a conflict. He has a meeting. I tried to get his deputy, Mr. Colin Graham, and he also has a conflict. So, listeners, what we expect you to do is to, along with Toya, to speak to Carnival 2026. We want to look at it. We want to look at the positives. We want to look at the negatives. And hopefully at the end of this show, we would have somewhat of a roadmap to where we go. I know next year is 50 years since we moved, 1977, we moved to June, July Mass. So some of you may have some ideas as to how that is done. But as is normal, what I would do, I would read my column for last week. My column is called Let's Get Serious About Culture. After that, the program would be all Ms. Latoya Dorishe Johns and your program. Remember, this is Voices. We love to hear your voice. But before we get to your voice, let's get serious about culture. Goes like this. Jamaica got reggae. Trinidad got calypso and carnival. Barbados got crop over with soca on the hill. St. Lucia got jazz fest. Grenada has jab jab. And St. Vincent, well, we got carnival too. But sadly, it is not a standout occasion beyond nationals, both at home and in diaspora. With a little imagination, we can do more and be more. Since I was small, people have been talking about Baxter's Road in Barbados. Land in Trinidad, and someone takes you to a doubles and roti or a bacon shack treat. You don't leave Jamaica without visiting Bob Marley's residence, Don River Fall, or tasting jerk. In Grenada, you go to a Fish Friday festival lime in Guave, or you make a solemn pilgrimage to Fort Rupert, where Maurice Bishop, the inspirational revolutionary leader, and other cabinet colleagues were gunned down in an implosive conflict that doomed Grenada's transformative experiment. We are a nation that flatters to deceive. We have so much, yet we have not properly marketed our slice of paradise. Vincy Mass and Nine Morning celebration are our biggest thrill, but the June, July masquerade and Nine Mornings are shadows of what used to be. The carnival crowds are smaller, the private, exclusive events, more aptly described as fashion shows in color, run rings around calypso, pan, and mass. Cultural tradition is on life support. Meanwhile, at the exclusive events, everybody vies to be crowned king or queen. Yeah, we are vibing still, but the cultural authenticity is increasingly being lost. Memory is in short supply. Reckoning is postponed as we summon the next bottle of anything. But St. Vincent has too much in its bosom for us to become so weighed down. We have enough to sell St. Vincent as the perfect place to be. We have one of the largest seascapes in the region and barely use it. Our culture and sport ministry should plan and launch to begin with a 1 week event labeled Regatta Central, where boats and yachts from across the region and around the world are encouraged to come to our Grenadines. Our younger swimmers should be challenging their counterparts in the OECS. This event should culminate in a conking salt fest on Union Island with immediate marketing outreach and appeal to Carriacou, Petit Martinique, and beyond. The Barrelé Fish Fest should be supported, and Culture Pot at Caliqua must be revived. Discover St. Vincent and Explore the Grenadines is another project that can be developed in a fascinating adventure and marketed to locals and foreigners alike. Paul Cyrus and others have done a wonderful job of showcasing our country's interior to the world. More waterfalls and hot springs are revealing themselves, thus exposing the beauty and splendor of our country. Integral to this project should be an annual La Soufrière Challenge and an adventure titled Explore the Grenadines. One is struck by how little we know about our island home. Uniquely Garifuna, they are none like us. We have the history with the culture of resistance as proof. The younger generation must know our story of strong resistance to conquest and slavery and the genocidal price we paid with blood and exile. Heroes Munch should be much more than the annual Garifuna conference, a visit to the cenotaph at Dorchester Hill, and a visit to Baliso. Many Garifuna events should be encouraged and promoted in known Garifuna enclaves such as Greg's, Sandy Bay, and Roseback, climaxing with a large cultural festival at Chateauguay Park in Raboka. Money should be earmarked to develop the park into more than a grassy area. It must be made into a site of culture and celebration. Imagine when Garifunas were exiled in 1797, about 2,000 of them left here. But the Garifuna diaspora is now close to 700,000. We can have an annual Garifuna pilgrimage to the homeland, Urumi, St. Vincent, that can pull scores, hundreds, and may well develop into thousands of Garifuna brothers and sisters each year. That's where we need to go. Heritage Square. 40 years ago, we went to Rick's Bar. Today, carnival revelers and weekend limers go to Lano's Bar or to hang out and meet friends and colleagues at Richie's, George, or Cathy's. After all these years, nothing has changed except for the people who make a living selling drinks and food. This reality is a sad commentary on our insight and foresight because the place dubbed Heritage Square has everything except heritage. It need not be this way. Heritage or Usigani Square, where Usigani is the indigenous name for what we know as Kingstown, should be permanently closed to vehicular traffic. It should be reimagined and designed as a place for, not as a place for parking vehicles, but as a cultural oasis where locals and foreigners alike can relax and entertain themselves or be entertained. The asphalt should be removed, cobblestone or brick should be laid, the river should be bridged, and the businesses should be relocated above the river. Benches should be strategically placed between the businesses. Such a simple change will create an avenue for painters, singers, calypsonians, dramatists, DJs, artisans, and other entrepreneurs to excel. Pirates of the Caribbean. 7 months in power. It ain't their fault. But the Ministry of Tourism and the government of St. Vincent should be ashamed that the site where the movie was filmed is listed as a tourist attraction. Tourists taken to Walilabu must experience a big letdown as there's nothing to see. The set, or what was left of it by the time the movie was completed, has all but disappeared. There may be licensing issues to resolve, but the government or private enterprise should give serious consideration to constructing a replica of what the movie producers left behind. Ecotourism. Our country is blessed with lush vegetation, parrots, birds, hills, valleys, and mountains that can boost our ecotourism. A lift, a gondola that takes you up and around Lasso Freight across the mountain ranges would lure citizens and foreigners on an adventure of discovery. Government and private partnership can take our country to unparalleled heights. In a few years, with care, guidance, support, assistance, and community buy-in, some or all of these events activities would emerge as major attractions on the Vinci cultural calendar. The time for our collective imagination is now. As Black Stalin reminds us, we can make it if we try, just a little harder. So yeah, that was my take from last week. I'm not asking you to comment on it. If you feel that you
Well,
want to say anything on that, you can. If not, I'll just jump into the thing that sparked my attention and got me to invite you onto Voices.
very well written article. It gives a lot of imagination to the product that we currently offer in St. Vincent and the Grenadines, which is what we're craving right now. Something more than just the basics.
Indeed. But I got to tell my audience that about 4 days ago, I was going through Facebook, and I saw this article, this piece that you did. It was called Development or Reenactment, and it was rather an extensive piece. Very early in the piece, you did disclaimer. You said, look, I ain't looking for no position, no carnival promotion, nothing. I just want to express my view on what I see happening. And you did it from the perspective of someone who was an event planner and a promoter of events. And part of it, you were particularly peeved because at the Flair event, one of your biggest draws and one of the biggest draw here in St. Vincent and the Grenadines and in the wider Caribbean, Problem Child was appearing, and at about 9 o'clock, the police came and said, "Look, you have to cut this because government-sponsored events were scheduled to begin at this time." Now, so I want you to pick up on that brief introduction and tell the audience more as to why your frustration at your Flair event spilled over into that extensive piece which you wrote on Facebook.
Okay, so good night to the listening audience. It's really a pleasure being here. Thank you so much for the invitation, Jomo, to join you on Voices. I hope that I lend a good voice to the overall debate on whether or not we are heading down the right road as it relates to our carnival product. Before I get into why the frustration, I'd like to introduce myself in this context. I think I am a lover of the arts. In terms of my involvement in carnival, I take myself back to being a masquerader with Bad Lass and Lasses. I don't know how many persons remember that band. That's a old band long time ago with Shaggy John.
That's Shaggy John and them.
Right. And those bands are no longer around. But I was a masquerader with Bad Lads and Lasses. And then I moved on to playing for many years with Nelson Block. And currently, I manage Oxygen Mass Band on Carnival Tuesday at the cruise ship terminal. So that is the mass side of me. In terms of chaperoning, I have 9 national crowns under my belt, meaning I would have assisted 9 young ladies to the Miss SVG crown. So, in terms of the talent competitions and the evening gowns and all of that, I think I am well versed to speak on our carnival product. Miss Caraval, I've entered girls in that competition by virtue of the fact that, you know, I won the national competition and had to go forward with the girls. I am a lover of calypso. You'd find me these days home listening to the calypso because I can't seem to get out to the tent. Every year I'm planning to get out and I can't get to the tent, but for sure the radios are on at home. I love calypso. And well, of course, I don't have a choice as an event planner, a promoter. I have to be in love with the soca as well. So I term myself as a well-rounded carnival girl, you know. 10 years ago, I went to do an event at a venue in Prospect and fell in love with the venue. And I remember coming home and telling my sister, you know, that would be really nice to have a carnival party. And that's where Flair was born. So this was the 10th anniversary of Flair. I was really disappointed for my patrons. I think when people pay their money, and our patrons are that we used to have the more mature crowd.
Before you get to disappointment, tell the persons who don't know, what is Flair?
Flair is an all-inclusive carnival Saturday party that happens in St. Vincent and the Grenadines. So it takes place every carnival Saturday and we begin at 3 p.m. I was asked the question, well, let me tell you why my frustration. So let me get into that. Over the years, the product has had to evolve. We started off at a private residence and the number of patrons grew. We went to the Arnesville Sporting Complex. This is inside the sporting complex. We went down to Mr. Thompson, Gerald Thompson's property in Brighton, Mangrove Park, I believe the name is. And then we went to Arnesville. So we have moved locations. This year we ended up at Arnesville, and in moving locations, I say this to say, this time limit was never in effect. This time limit came into effect this is our second year of it. So we had Flair and the event could end. We always ended at a reasonable time. It was never a 9 p.m. ending. We would end later than 9 p.m. But there was never a shutdown time because of a CDC event. I believe in an effort to streamline the CDC events, this was introduced, along with a lot of other paperwork. You have to have this to get this permission, and you have to have that to get that permission, and you have to, go 10 different places to get 10 different sets of permission. But in doing so, a time limitation was implemented. And I want to say clearly, I was never in favor of the time limitation. Last year, I was definitely not in favor of it. And I would have verbally expressed this to multiple stakeholders in Carnival. If our CEO was on tonight, he would tell you this as well. And this year, I am certainly not in favor of it. I do not believe that private promoters, any private promoter should have to shut down their event or their event when a state-owned event begins.
Why not?
I think persons in 2026, persons are going to go to which event they want to go to. These are adults we are speaking of. I do not think the attendance at one is going to hinder the attendance at the other. If I have made up my mind that I am going to go to Soca Monarch, when I leave the event that takes place before, I am going to head to Soca Monarch. It's not going to, both of them happening. One is not going to prevent my attendance at the other. I have said
I want to ask you this though. Have you ever checked what is the legal authority on which the CDC tells you that you have to close down your event?
Well, the CDC will argue, the CDC will come on here and tell you that they didn't shut down my event. The CDC would say that the police permission that I am given only gives me up until 9 p.m. and that it has nothing to do with them. That was the argument last year. But if the police permission only gives me until 9 p.m., as instructed by CDC, because, and the reasoning is that this is when Soca Monarch starts, ultimately, CDC has a role to play in when the event ends.
So have you all ever picked it up with the police?
Of course, we have picked this up with the police. As a matter of fact, Jomo, I would go on to say that this year we received a letter indicating that flare can end at 10 p.m. And then in the middle of the event, at about 6:45 or so, there was a call placed and we were told that they have moved forward the time to 9 p.m. And of course, you could imagine my confusion as an event planner. We brought in 2 artists from Trinidad to perform, and we had Problem Child. And I'm saying to everyone at 6:45, how is this going to work? Whose time is going to be rescheduled? Which DJ are we going to have to bump from the cast? Because we now have a 1 hour loss in time. So obviously something is going to have to happen there.
So the letter that you received giving you a 10 o'clock time limit, was that letter came from the police high command?
Yes, from the police. We got a letter from the police.
And this is from the commissioner? Or?
Yes, ending at 10 p.m. And then at 6:45, we receive a phone call stating that.
So you got a phone call from the police?
Yes, from the police stating that it must end at.
And this was from the police high command as well?
Yes, at 9 p.m. So, we asked why. We heard that, okay, it's CDC. A CDC event begins at 9 p.m.
Oh, that's what you were told?
Yes.
Okay. And you think this is absolutely wrong?
It's wrong. It's wrong. And I think in 2026 is nonsense too.
Well, I happen to agree with you.
Yes.
I think it's wrong. I agree with you. I think it's nonsense as well. I don't see, and it goes to a point that you were making earlier, I don't see why a state event should dictate when a private event begins or ends.
Yeah.
That is a restraint on commerce. And this has been an issue for a long time. I remember, I think it was one of those events that Luke Boy had sponsored a number of years ago, or some other promoter. And I always thought, and I am not telling, I always thought that the event planners should join together and sue the CDC. Sue the CDC, sue the police, and make a claim that you are doing something that is improper. You are doing something that should not be done. Because
Yeah.
if you are spending, I heard some comments about the kind of money you spend. You had two performers from Trinidad. You had a top ranking Vincentian performer, Problem Child. You probably had DJs and so on. Now,
It's
how do
from
you
the rest of the Caribbean.
how do you deal with that? In fact, let me ask you this question because you seem to be a culture woman. Is there similar kind of restrictions across the region as far as you're aware in terms of events that is state telling people when they can stop and when they can start?
Well, the argument, let me answer your question. No. As a matter of fact, when this happened, most of our audience in Flair, our patrons, they just stood up 9 o'clock when the music was taken off. Some disappointed, quite naturally, because the event did not have a natural ending. Some a little frustrated because they're not ready to go home and they're not going to Victoria Park. But some angry. Some, especially the patrons I found from around the region, very angry. Are you serious in St. Vincent? Like, does this really happen? Do you shut down the event? Because, I mean, they've never heard of it. So, to answer your question, no. The pushback that we get a lot, though, is that in New York and in Canada and these other countries, the permit time ends and we must shut down the function. And I say to people, this is why we have so many persons from the New York and the Canada and the everywhere coming to the Caribbean because they feel that they're coming down here to enjoy the luxuries that they don't have in their own cities. So for us to be shutting down at 9 o'clock in the night, a function with adults, it's just unheard of. It's unheard of.
Yeah, it has always been problematic for me. I never understood. But you all have to think that through as to how you're going to deal with it because especially where a lot of the idea is that this is to facilitate a CDC event because I think that you are absolutely right. If you are having an event on Carnival Saturday, Soca Monarch is Carnival Saturday. People who want to go, even if you're Soca Monarch, the guy who won this year, as far as I understand, got on the stage at 5 minutes after 5. So,
Jomo, Soca Monarch never began until 11 p.m. It
but my
did not
point,
begin until 11 p.m.
yeah.
So why deny patrons a natural ending? We would not have gone until 11 p.m.
But why couldn't you go to 1 a.m. if you wanted to? That's the point that I
Well, that
am.
restriction is placed there, and I don't want people to see me. Joma, let me tell you something. I wrote a similar piece last year and I never posted it. I wrote this piece this year, and 5 minutes after posting it, I deleted it. And then a gentleman called me and he said, before you deleted the piece, I had the opportunity to read it. And I thought it was a very powerful piece. And I said, yes, I deleted it because, I'm going to be seen as somebody who is an anti-culture, anti-development, or anti-citizen. And I don't want that. And he said to me, I think there was a lot of food for thought. You need to put it back up. And so about 5 or 6 hours later, I placed it back on my social media page. And I still have that to say. Very often, when you speak about an issue quietly, nobody listens to you. You speak about it publicly in this manner, and you are seen as somebody who is not for the CDC. Now, the CDC knows that that is far from the truth. But I am not for any private promoter having to shut down their event prematurely to accommodate a state-run event. I think that the state-run events need to lift their bar to they need to promote their events so that a natural, the natural, you naturally want to go to these events and it's not being forced on you. I feel as though you are saying, okay, nothing can happen and we are forcing you in one direction. It must naturally occur. The marketing must be so captivating. I must want to go for several reasons. I must want to go because the performers are excellently prepared, that the show starts on time, that the bathrooms are functioning and well kept, that the park is inviting, that there's so many different areas, so many different reasons I must want to go to Victoria Park, that even though Flair ends at 11 p.m., I am still going to leave there, Annesville, and drive to Kingston to head to Victoria Park. It must happen naturally.
Well, I think that you're right, because one of the points I made in my column last week, I take the example of Heritage Square and what happens. The same thing that happened. I give the example of when I was much younger, everybody went to Heritage Square for Rick's Bar. Now people, a small fraction comparatively go to Lano's Bar or to George's Bar, to Cathy's Bar. But it is not the evolution, I think, is what we are not paying enough attention to in St. Vincent, and the ways in which we have to keep our culture and make our culture more attractive. And as a planner, if you want to give some ideas for free,
for free, you approaching here on my intellectual.
What are some? I know you did say that you're not looking for a position on a board. No. But assuming that you had a chance to give some ideas.
Well, let me tell you first of all.
What might some of those ideas be?
I like the fact that, especially in most recent years, the CDC is trying to be innovative in terms of venues. A couple of events happened on the tarmac. A couple of them happened in Victoria Park. The type of events too, I could see that diversification. So kudos to the CEO, Rodney Small, who is he's a creative genius, and the entire CDC, Ezzy, Jomo, the whole crew that works really hard to make sure that there is some innovation in the product. I think, Jomo, I might ruffle some feathers here, but I think that Vincy Mas, we are so positioned now in the Caribbean to be a leading carnival destination, that if we are not careful and if we don't hinder ourselves from being, hinder our progression from being stuck in the past, if we are able to move forward in the way we think and the way we execute, that we could actually be a leading carnival destination. The first thing we have to realize is that what happened 25 years ago and what happened 20 years ago cannot make it in 2026 and beyond. It's two different eras. We have to understand this. Now, I call the first era the indigenous era or product. This is what we used to. When you hear people on social media, you hear them reminiscing, the carnival bands used to be so much better and the all-inclusives are spoiling things and Lyman by the bar in town was better and the music was better. Everything for them was better. We have to be careful. We cannot be stuck in the past. Because you know what?
But you would agree that there's something to be said that the music was better, though.
Music was far better. Far
Okay.
better. I think WFM did a piece where they did all of the road match winners for the last 49 years. And you heard the progression of music. You heard how sweet the music was in the days of Touch, New Direction, Beckett. You heard how sweet it was. But we have some people who are stuck in what used to happen. And if we are looking at this from an economic perspective, the people who are spending the money, they're no longer looking for that experience. And we need to decide if Carnival is going to be a cultural art form that we want to preserve, or if it's going to be used as a tool to make money for our country. I think that is the first thing we have to decide. Do we want it as a cultural preservation festival where we are just preserving what used to happen, or are we looking at it as an economic earner? Because it's two different products. And one group of people seem to be stuck in the past. Yes. So we have to decide where we at with this carnival.
And if you want to decide, where would you go? But before you answer, just for those persons who want to call it, the number is 457-9997. You could either call that number, you can send a WhatsApp message, and I'm sure Kamal would bring it to our attention. 457-9997 is the number to call or the number to WhatsApp. I saw Sowando Brown saying he wants to call in to make a contribution. So hopefully, Sowando, you would still be listening. You would hear that number and you would call. Where do you think we should go? You say we have to make a decision. Do we want to have a cultural package or do we want to make money for St. Vincent?
Yeah. Is it a new reality? And if we're embracing a new reality, then we have to change things. We have to change in timing. The weekend of Carnival in St. Vincent and the Grenadines cannot be when we have in Calypso being crowned and when we're doing the finals of Pan, and people come to the West Indies, they come to the Caribbean. The visitors come to the Caribbean to party. They are coming to the Caribbean to party. They're coming to enjoy themselves. They're coming for the all-inclusive parties. They're coming to play mass. I've looked at our Oxygen Mass Band from the inception up until now. And we have more and more visitors every year. This is why they're coming to our island. Now, I am not saying you're not going to have the returning national who they're excited by the Calypso finals or they are excited. But look at our numbers in Victoria Park. They're not coming for that. These things need to be moved out of the final weekend for Carnival. They need to be happening leading up to the final week or weekend of Carnival. They have no right. They have absolutely, I know I would ruffle a couple of feathers here. They don't have any right in. If we are looking at the economic product and who's spending the money on Carnival.
But how are those things in conflict though? Because if people are coming to party, if people are coming to play mass, if people are coming to go to the private events, there's really no contradiction, because once Flair is allowed to go until whenever it wants to go, or whether H2O Soca is allowed to go whenever it wants to go, they could always have Calypso. They could always have.
The problem we're having is that our CDC wants to preserve in the weekend of Carnival the indigenous product. And that is where we are having the confusion. The preservation of that indigenous product in the middle of the final week of Carnival. I am not saying we can't preserve it. We want to hear the Calypso. I would like to enter some money from the girls' high school to go and sing Calypso, but I need some guidance.
But you haven't answered my question. There's Dimash Grand Night, we have Calypso final. What stops, even if we were to keep that on that night, that Sunday night, that final Sunday before Monday and Tuesday, how is that in contradiction to the commercial side of things. Because as you said, the people who are coming, they're coming for enjoyment. They may never go to Calypso finals. They may never go to Panorama, but they would still have a great time. Don't you think?
I think some of our the local persons who are interested are conflicted during that period. If you're telling me if I stay home to get some rest to get ready to go to Juve as a local, or I am going around Victoria Park to listen to the Calypso, then as a local person, I may stay home. So I am saying, if you want the local dollar, because the local market is who the indigenous product seems to be appealing to, then you have to put it at a time when it does not compete with our new reality products. The two cannot exist at the same time.
Right. Junior John is asking an important question. He says, why CDC don't put in the same restrictions on Sunday Demashgra? The restrictions make no sense. I happen to think so too. I don't know why we have those restrictions at all. Let the events contend. I mean, I wrote time and time against what I see as the total and complete commercialization of the festival. You know, I am taken by that old Chalk Dust song. You know, they gone commercial exploiting the carnival. Because Short just was writing that I think in the late 70s, early 80s, and I think, as you correctly said, we have gone a few decades past what happened then. For example, in Calypso at its high point, I think, had to do with the fact that we did not have social media, we did not have a multiplicity of radio stations. So people relied on what they call the people's poets, the messengers, to tell us what was happening in the year. Now, all of us have our soapbox. All of us go on social media. All of us can call into radio at any given time to speak to what's happening. So I think that's the difference. And that may explain, plus coupled with the fact that the calypsos are not very good.
Well, I was about to say, in terms of the development part of
let's hold your thought. Let's see what the person who's calling trying to say. Caller, good evening. It's time for your voice.
Yes, good evening, and thanks for accepting my call. Now, I was listening to your program, and I was listening to the person in your panel, and I have something to say to the private promoter as to the private event in Carnival. You said a while ago, shortly before I get on to you, that she thinks CDC should have all the event before Carnival. And she are talking like if CDC, the brand that CDC runs, control Carnival, which is Mass, Pan, Calypso, Soca. Not all inclusive it. Mass, Pan, Calypso, and Soca. Right? Those are the components of Carnival. Now, I would like to say to her, seeing that you are so confident that people, you make it sound like people come to St. Vincent for the all-inclusive event. So let us do this. You have flair out of Carnival. Do not have flair in Carnival. Have it out of Carnival. And let me see how many people are going to fly into St. Vincent to come to flair. Because Carnival, apparently, the Grand Carnival draws nobody to St. Vincent. They are coming for the all-inclusive event. It appears to me. We got to be mindful of what we say and how we think. Yes, it's a private promoter, and you're doing.
Well, let her respond now, sir. I think since you have made the point, let her respond to what you said. You're making a good point. Let her respond.
Okay, and as I said in my piece that I wrote, how about you might not come to St. Vincent for flair alone, but let us take out Solaris, Flair, AM, Cheap Brunch, Mass. Let us take all of the all-inclusive elements. Because you wouldn't come for one, but you might come for 5 or 6 and put them at a different weekend in the year and let us see the statistics.
I will
Let us see the statistics. Let us leave the indigenous, sir. Let us leave the indigenous product that we know to be carnival on its own, and let us pull out all of the all-inclusive parties and put them together in another weekend, and let us see the statistics.
Out of June, out of Carnival.
Out of Carnival. So we pull in all the all-inclusive fest.
I agree with you. I will love to see that, because it would not, the all-inclusive party would not join the crowd to St. So as you anticipated.
You might be surprised. You might be surprised, sir. You might be surprised. And listen to me, we don't have to go too far to look at the data.
I want to say something.
Don't talk over him. And sir, don't talk over her either. Make the point. Make the point that you want. You say you want to say something else.
Yes, I want to say something. Because somebody else may have a conversation with something to me. Yes, the CDC brand, however, they have a lot of weaknesses. It's obvious we can see that. But by the end of the day, there is too much all-inclusive fete in Carnival, and something needs to be done. And I support the CDC in doing what they're doing. You understand? Put a time limit.
Why do you say there are too many private events? Are the private events patronized?
They are okay. They are 4 or 5 at one night.
Are they patronized?
Well, I guess they're doing whatever.
But don't you think that people are making? Don't you think that adults are making clear choices as to what they want to do, whether they want to go to Calypso finals or to go to whichever show they are having?
I agree that people have a choice and should have a choice. I am not saying CDC.
But you evidently don't agree with choice, because you are saying that they have too many private events and they should stop some of them.
Hear why I'm saying it, Jomo. The simple fact that the lady there is talking now, they are defending. They should have the right to have shows and go as long as they want. You understand? While everybody have a choice, we have a brand. Carnival is a brand. It's a product. It's Carnival time. The 10 days of June, July belongs to Carnival.
Let me ask you this question. Let me ask you this question. Yes, Carnival is a brand, but I was trying to make that point in my column last week. I don't know if you had a chance to listen. Do you think that Carnival is a brand outside of St. Vincent? Do you think that what percentage of the people who you think come for Carnival are other than Vincentians? I mean, I don't know the numbers. Latoya, I don't know if you know the numbers, but it's an interesting thing that we should check out, because if only Vincentians are coming, and the vast majority of Vincentians who are coming tend to go to the private events, then I think that Latoya may have a point when she says she's prepared to put all of the private events, let's say on a Heroes Day weekend,
and see what
might happen.
Yes.
And I agree with that. So I am saying to her, this is why I come on here. I will like she and the rest of them to do that. And let us see and leave the 10 days of Carnival to Carnival and see what happens.
How do you?
I know. I'm not living in St. Vincent. I'm living in the British Virgin. I know they will not get the support as she anticipating. A lot of local people support those events more than the foreigners. A lot of local people support those events. Now, I don't have a problem what they have in these.
What's the last time you were in St. Vincent?
I'm in St. Vincent right now. I built King and Queen for Blondie Board and Friends.
Okay. All right. So your point is taken. Yeah, thank you. Your point is taken.
Yes. Okay. Good.
So, Toya, you have the man showed on the gauntlet for you, you see.
No. He hasn't thrown down a thing. The private promoters are someone in my hair messaging, and if we are to move it out, people would think that we do not want to work together. The gentleman said something, Carnival is a brand. And this is my point as an event planner. Carnival is a brand that needs evolving. You can't keep the brand at the same point all the time. Now, if you look at the results of the CDC shows in terms of the number of patrons attending them, it is a clear indicator that something is off. Something is off. Why are we ignoring the numbers? Something is clearly off here. The overseas market they're coming to. I always wondered, I don't know if there's the tourism authority, if they conduct surveys at the airport to see, what events are you looking forward to most? Name your top 3 or your top 5 events. That might give us some indication as to why the visitors. How did you hear about Vinci Mass? I'd also like them to examine that. How did you hear about Vinci Mass? You see, we get very territorial when we are talking about the indigenous product. And this is what I was trying to say earlier, Jomo. We are extremely territorial when we're speaking about it. But if we are to go places, we have to understand that this product has to evolve, it has to change, it has to morph into.
Ideally, what do you think Carnival must be like or should be like?
Well, as I said to you before, I think the timing, we need to work on our timing. I am not sure, but I think St. Lucia, I think they have the same type of, prior to the final week of Carnival, we have the lead up in terms of the national beauty pageants. We have the Calypso monarch being crowned. We have the king and the queen being crowned. And then in the final week of Carnival, there are the parties, the celebration. I am not saying that CDC can't organize a show that, may encompass all of that for the visitor who comes in for the final week or so of the festival, because people don't have unlimited vacations to come home for an overly extended period of time, a lot of persons. So maybe a taste of the indigenous product could be placed there. But I think we need to look at our timing. Some things need to come a bit earlier out of the weekend.
I have argued that Carnival is not a fete. Are you saying that Carnival is now increasingly a fete?
I am saying to you, if you are looking at the economic benefits of the festival to our country, for those coming in, primarily it is a fete. One long series of fetes.
Jomo, we have a caller.
All right, let's take the caller. Caller, good evening. It's time for your voice. Ms. Latoya Dorothy John is with us.
Okay, a pleasant good night.
Good night.
Yes. Yes, so I've been listening. I'm a middle-aged person who would have been attending Carnival, and a mother myself where I also get my kids involved. Over the past 3 years, I've been looking on social media and realized that there is a war. The war I'm saying is like CDC versus the private event. So my question for my good friend there tonight, are you saying that Carnival is, okay, the new product that should be marketed is one where the Carnival in St. Vincent or Vinci Mass should be about the inclusive fest? Because being a young person, my age group, we are definitely gravitating towards the inclusive fest. But I want to ask her if I heard you said we should separate the indigenous product, which is a thing of the past, which is now becoming a thing of the past, because the fetters that are coming to our shows are really gravitated towards the inclusive fest. I need some clarity on that.
Yes, I am saying that we need to cater to the palate of both our locals and those coming in. Our locals want to partake in the indigenous product. It is very
But
important.
but is that true? Is that true though? Because if that
I
were the
think so.
case, if
But the
that
time,
if
the
no,
time,
give me a chance, to develop the point. You said the locals want to do this while those who are coming in want to do something else, and I'm asking you,
Right.
if that were the case,
Mm.
we would still have, because we have more locals here than people who are coming in any given year. So we should have bumper crowds at what people call the cultural, local, indigenous
they want
carnival
to do it.
events. So
They
why
just
is that
don't want
not?
to
Why is
do it
that not happening?
when they don't want to do it when the new reality events happening, when the all inclusives are happening. So this is
No,
why I
but
say the
local
time.
people, a lot of local people, take your event, if you can tell us, from your observations, if you have if you were to have, let's say the last event you had 100 persons in there, how many of those persons you would say, a rough guess, were indigenous in the sense of people who are living here as compared to people who are coming in from abroad?
60-40. 60
60,
locals, 40.
60 local.
Yeah.
Right. So if it's 60
I
local,
have
I
another
think that
question.
if it's 60 local, then the
Other
point was,
all inclusives might peak higher, much higher on the overseas coming, eh? But for Flair, I would say 60-40.
We still
right.
have a caller online, huh?
Uh, I
Yes,
have a
Paula, go ahead. Go
question,
ahead.
right?
Go ahead. I'm sorry.
Yes. So I'm saying, right, I would not like to see the indigenous product separated because carnival is culture, carnival is mass. I don't want to see carnival only being parties or fests. So my question is, instead of seeing what is happening as a war where one side must lose, whether the private promoters or CDC, how can the CDC and private promoters cohort or bundle events so that a ticket to a premium private event like Flair also helps fund and support CDC events? What recommendations? Because we don't want to see a tug, like it's a war, because take it as we don't like it how we like it. The indigenous shows attendance, they are declining. So it's obviously the CDC needs to find a bridge where they can collaborate with the private promoters again, but the private promoters must also come up with a recommendation of how they're going to help to elevate our indigenous product, because when the CDC market Vincimas, the market it as a product, and also the private promoters, they do their part of our carnival. But I want to, as I say, let me repeat the question: how can the CDC and private promoters cohort or bundle?
There's no need to repeat the question. Let her answer.
Yes, please.
You,
So,
is
well, first of all, I don't know if the CDC wants our help. Admitting that the CDC want to work with the private promoters to increase the attendance at their show would be quite a humbling thing. But as an event planner, I think that I said this to somebody just this week in response to my written piece. You have Flair, let's say Flair, Bliss, Chairs. You have those three events. You say, okay, promoters of these three events, can you assist us with the Junior Calypso competition? You can group AM, Cheap Brunch, Solaris. Can you assist us with the Soca Monarch competition? Now, Jomo, if you do that, I do not think we all love St. Vincent and the Grenadines. We love our culture. We love our island so much. I don't think there's any promoter that will say no, we cannot assist. But this is going to take our time. It's going to take our money. It's going to take our energy. what do we get in return? You can't be asking us to partner with you on things for national development, and then there is nothing for us in return. It may be. And these are just some basic suggestions that I don't even think I should have to make as a promoter on here. Things that we bring in for Carnival, basic concessions on some of these things that will never be used again, that we have to use for our shows. Jomo, I just brought in some cups. Let me give you an example. When patrons come to the event, we give them a cup. We just brought in some cups, and the customs charged us $11,000 plus in customs charges for the cups to give away at the event. So there are ways the state can say, you know what, for partnering with us, we see you, we hear you, we appreciate your efforts. In return, can these things come in duty-free or at a reduced duty? If you don't want to give it to us duty-free, the VAT that we pay, the VAT is, Mr. Pompey, I know you're hearing me. I know you're looking at this program right now. It is ridiculous. I keep saying this over and over, and that VAT was to be used for the development of Carnival. I don't know if Mr. Pompey handed it over to the CDC, but maybe we can have a reduction on the VAT. The promoters who decide to help the indigenous products could have a
how was the VAT is all out on the ticket sales?
No, the VAT. If the private promoters call in here now, you would be in shock at the type of fees that are paid towards VAT. It is crazy.
Well, you tell us because you are here.
Crazy in this country. Absolutely mad. Karen Vera probably sleeping now. But it is
you know what
Winston, I hear people argue all the time, oh, the private promoters are not giving anything to Carnival. They're not giving anything to... Hello, Mr. Pompey, why he VAT before the tickets even sell? Before the tickets are even sold, Mr. Pompey wants some of his VAT.
But that can't be proper and legal. How are you paying VAT on a product that may not sell?
Yeah.
But Wando Brown says, you private promoters think you is Carnival. Winston Young says, everything should not be about who's coming. You can't neglect the local market in the process. Kent Thomas says, they want to preserve our culture. That's the whole point of Carnival. Should we drop our culture because private promoters want big money? Leon John says, we have to preserve it.
Take a call, Jomo.
No, I wanted to respond to those comments first.
We are not dropping our local culture. If you know me as a person, you would not suggest. I'm somebody who, is heritage, so many local cultural experiences. But I am saying, if we are interested in the economic product, in developing that and milking it for all that St. Vincent and the Grenadines can get.
But should we? I asked
that question up front. We have to decide where we are. Let me tell you, just a couple of years ago, Beckway Easter Regatta was the hottest thing in the Eastern Caribbean. Beckway people say they weren't comfortable with it. Whatever, they got rid of the parties, they got back to their traditional stuff. That is what they wanted. So I said very early in this program, as a nation, we have to decide what we want in relation. Do we want our new reality? Or are we stuck in the past? Do we want to preserve and harness the indigenous culture? It's two different things we're talking about.
Well, I don't think so, with respect. We can have both. I don't think that we need to be in a situation. We are for example, hold on. Let me develop the thought and let you respond. We build hospitals, right? We build roads. And I think you are right. You may think that we want simply to generate as much money as possible in the economy. And the tax man may want that. Who are counting the pennies in the national treasury, they may want that. But people like Mayon John and Kent Thomas and Winston Young and so on the Brown. I said, no. We want culture. We want to keep that culture. So
then we are doing perfectly fine. We are doing perfectly fine. If we think that, we want the two to be married, we have the product that we have now.
All right, Jomo, we have someone online for
okay, let's take that caller now, please. Thank you. Caller, good evening. It's time for your voice. We have Miss Latoya Dorsey John. She's an event planner. She's one of the minds behind Flair. She also works with the people who do Oxygen and Carnival for Carnival. So, offer your ideas, your opinions, your questions.
Everyone. Can you hear me? Is everyone
Yes, we're hearing you clearly.
Okay, lovely. I tuned in a bit late to this discussion because I was messaged by a friend who told me what was happening as someone who shares a very unique experience with what is happening with our culture. And by that I mean my formative years, we had CDC when CDC was booming, as in we had Glow and Fire Fest and all those things. And in my early 20s, we saw the introduction of more private events. So I have experienced both. I have experienced the rich vibrancy of CDC, and I have experienced the introduction and the boom of private events. So I think for me, I have a unique perspective on this. Not to say anybody else's perspective is not unique, but I believe I have, and people in my age group have a very unique view on what's happening here. Now, let me start by saying this. I am one of the people, I have made videos about this and I have talked about this. I believe private parties are killing the cultural fabric of carnivals in the region. That is not to say private events do not have a space in our carnival, but it cannot be to the expense and it cannot be to the detriment of what our culture is. If you understand what I'm saying, there is a space for private events. Now, let me go into this a little bit further. St. Vincent is coming in a bit late to the private event game, to the expansion of carnival and carnival events. We have Trinidad that's years ahead of us. We have Barbados that's miles ahead of us. We have Jamaica, although it's new, it still is a bit more populous than we are.
Well, but that may be a function of the fact that they have larger populations, though.
Right, and they have more marketing reach, they have more visibility, so that is a part of it. What St. Vincent, like Grenada, has is that unique component where we still have that gritty, grimy, what is our carnival, that is what. And if you have seen a lot of the reviews from this year's Vincy Mass, they're talking about the private events. Yeah, the private party was nice. The private events that they're getting in Brooklyn, they're getting in London, they're getting in Canada. But the energy of the people at Soca Monarch, at Juve, at Monday Jam, at Mardi Gras, at the little roadside bars, that is what people are coming for. Like Grenada, where Grenada has still kept its jab. We are trying to revive our monkey band. Now, how does the private events play into Carnival? There are a lot of filler spaces between the launch of Carnival and the 10 days of events. That is where the private events fit into Carnival. You cannot come and tell me, and Ms. Derish, I hope we can remain friends after this because I think you know who's speaking here. You cannot tell me that a private event is coming to tell CDC, the governing body of Carnival, for the activity that is happening, which is Carnival, that we should move out. CDC shouldn't have events in the weekend. I don't know if I'm misquoting you. The 10 days CDC should wrap up. Private promoters should have free reign over that 10 days. No, that cannot happen because then Carnival is not Carnival. Carnival is a private fete. And we have private fete for Christmas, we have private fete for Independence, we have private fete for Easter. When can we experience our culture, our cultural fabric? What makes Carnival Carnival? When can we experience that? Do we wait for
But are you asking your question and you answering it yourself?
Emancipation.
Are you giving her a chance to answer the questions?
Oh, okay.
Miss Darcy, John not saying it, you know. The people's palate has killed and they don't have an appetite anymore for the indigenous culture. I'm saying at the paid carnival events. Something is going on. The numbers are saying it. Miss Darcy, John not saying it. The numbers are saying it. The interest is saying it. Don't knock the
Messenger.
knock the messenger here.
But how
Pay attention to
and you saying
the message. Pay attention to what the message is.
you said that you were involved with oxygen. How was that? And you said that there's a lot of people who doing that. So that mass component, are you saying that is still alive and well?
Mass. I don't think any mass band have an issue because, as I've explained to you, Jomo, people are coming to the Caribbean to fete. So I don't think the mass bands have any issue across the board. It's just a matter of people's preference, whether it be the traditional bands, you know, or the more modern bands, but they're all going out to play mass. But in terms of the paid CBC shows, don't kill the messenger here. The numbers in Victoria are telling you that there is a problem. The demand, and let me take you back to class, Shannon. The demand, tell me it, finish it.
When there is more demand, there is more demand because, yes, I know.
Exactly. So we have to fix why. And we have to also look at how did others fix this problem of the low demand during the season. Let me don't get caught up. I always say, I think we get too, carnival and culture brings out a type of emotion in us that.
But can I say to as something that I've noticed, right? If Soca Monarch, which is usually the biggest crowd, which draws the biggest crowd for CDC. If Vincent, if the crowd, because a lot of people have started going to Soca Monarch because it's too rowdy and stuff like that. I personally enjoyed that part of Soca Monarch. Now, if Soca Monarch starts at 9 or 10, and a private event is happening the same day, and people are coming from overseas and they want to go to everything, so they decide, okay, that day has 14 sets. I want to go one of the 14 fest, but I want to hit Soca Monarch. I already paid $400 for my ticket, and that is another discussion for another day. I paid $400 for my ticket. I paid $500 for the table. I pay $600 for the liquor because that is how the price is looking. Mm-hmm. Do I choose to go to that, enjoy my money and enjoy myself, or go to a party for $60? I could lose $60. I can't lose the $1,500 I spent to go to the private event. And then when the private event ends at 9, Soca Monarch starts at 10, I drink out the whole bar, I eat till I'm full, I can't do nothing, my eyes dazzling in my head, I go home, I lie down, when I catch myself, it's 2 o'clock. It ain't make no sense. I go out, and if I go out late. We have to have a balance. If you're going to have a show,
No. This is where we are getting into people's preferences and so on. That is not our right. Our right. We cannot get into people go and they support who they want to support. They go to which all-inclusive they want to go to. We cannot get into the should they go to Soca versus should they go to
But are these programs, are these events really competing with each other? I mean, I don't think so.
I think the CDC thinks so because they are of the mindset, you know.
No. I am not. I am here. I am detecting that from a lot of people, but I don't think that they compete with each other. Some of these shows are $100, $200, $300, $400, and I raised a point in one of my columns about the rise in social prostitution. I'm not sure if people got the point I was making. But if you have these $300 and $400 and $500 events, and we have an average in St. Vincent where people are making like $2,000 per month.
That's why I said conversation for another day.
I'm not sure why you're telling me what my conversation should be like.
No. I did a video on that, on the price of carnival. And if we get into that, it's going to be a whole different discussion.
No, this is an adult audience. We can have a discussion
because
wherever
the
we
price
want
of
to go.
carnival is absolutely ridiculous.
No, it's not ridiculous if people are attending.
Exactly. And
If
this
I
is
say,
what I'm saying,
if I
don't
say, let's
ignore the economic indicators for
If I
passion.
say, if I say,
but we
if
have
I
to
say
also
Soca Monarch is $125 and 9,000 people show up in the park, are you going to say that the price is ridiculous? Or if I say Flair ticket is $253, I know, for example, there was the Carnival Escape event. I think it was $400, and people went. People claimed they had a good time. Why are you going to say that is ridiculous? Carnival is about race and class. Everybody find their niche. I mean, I have a real problem with what I perceive to be the over commercialization of it. But I think that horse has left the stable, quite frankly.
Yeah. And we have to we have to find a way for everything to work together. And this is why I'm saying we have to look at the other carnivals around the Caribbean and realize what they've done to deal with these issues. And I say scheduling changes are necessary in St. Vincent and the Grenadines. Now, I want to move beyond that, Jomo. I want to say that I think Carnival can't just start up when we get to, January, February. And when I say start up, I mean in earnest. We have all year round work to do. Our music teachers need to be probably in constant training, or they need to be visiting the schools in terms of recruitment for junior soca, junior calypso, junior soca monarchs. These things are all wrong things that need to happen so we have a successful festival. Prizes. I know private sector is going to say that they are stumped. They can't do anymore. This year, we sponsored an award in Miss SVG. We were asked. We have no issues. And this is what I'm saying. Private promoters generally have no issues in contributing to the festival. But we need a game plan. This year, we're celebrating 50 years of Vincimas. And I could bet you, if we're still in the game, if Flair is still in it, if the other promoters are still in it, come next year Carnival, we are going to do our best to make sure that we contribute towards the 50th anniversary of Carnival. But we can't let CDC get off as if you bring a haphazard, halfway done Soca Monarch or Calypso finals or even the 10th. You bring a junior Calypso first that is inadequate, and we are okay with that. We are satisfied with that. They have to raise the bar as well. We have to expect more. We have to demand more.
How do you respond to the idea that you are riding on CDC's back while sticking your nose at them?
How do I respond to that?
Yeah, to such a comment from one of the listeners.
Collectively, private promoters promote our carnival a whole lot to the rest of the world. Don't underestimate the contribution that we make. We are getting constant licks for it because you are underestimating how much we put Vincimas out there.
May I jump in here, please, to add something to this?
After this, you have to hang up so that somebody else can get a chance.
Yes, I'm going to leave. But I will say this. Now, Ms. Darashe, you know the respect I have for you, but let us be very fair here, right? How does, and don't be too mad at me, how does Into the Metaverse promote Vincy Mass other than it is happening during Carnival? How does that promote what Vincy Mass Carnival and St. Vincent is, other than this event is happening during the cultural festival that is Vincy Mass? How does Into the Metaphor say, come to St. Vincent for Monkey Dan and Mass?
Right. Yeah.
How does that do that? Thank you so much for listening to me. I'm gone.
Right. Let me
thank you
ask
so much for your contribution.
While you've gone, you are looking at Vincy Mask only as the indigenous products. The person that's buying these tickets on Eventbrite, on wherever, looking for the experience. How am I going to dress? How are they going to execute the theme? What is it going to look like? That is the experience they're looking for. That is why they're coming to Vincy Mass to Shannon. Not just the monkey man and we are drawing them in. We are drawing them in with the creative product, the things of the whole.
But Carnival, I think there's a misunderstanding. No? Carnival is not just about monkey band.
Consumer expectations have shifted tremendously. Their expectations, their demands have shifted, and I don't want us to get caught behind.
But I want us to go back to a point. I touched on it and you talked about it. If the mass component of Carnival is not suffering, then what do we need to do to bring back the calypso, the soca? Well, soca is still one of the more popular events that the CDC does, but to bring back calypso. And I think that in some senses, we leave the practitioners off the hook. Like you go to tent is 2 weeks before Carnival, and the tent begins 8:45, 10 to 9. And at 10:15, they break for 30 minutes. And you were really not satisfied with the 8 or 9 Calypsonians who went before. And then you end up leaving the Russell Theatre at 12:30, having not really feel, boy, how did I just spend that 3 hours? In the old days, the tent was excellent calypso and comedy, right? So you go to the tent and you get a laugh with somebody who had a shitty calypso, but you got a laugh from that. But that was not the predominant thing. I saw somebody mentioning before that a lot of the calypsos now don't have melody. And a lot of these soca songs are just noise.
Jomo, you saying it. Make sure you saying it to Nami, eh?
I have always tried to call it the way I see it. So if that's the case, we are going to have problem. You have a product that is not attractive. And if you have a product that is not attractive, we take soca and calypso, and calypso to a large extent. If you take out, well, they have a few young guys who are coming on now, but you take out some of the guys who are there as big draws, you know, like the Skinny Fabulous, the Fireman Hooper, and some of the others who are coming on. you really can't say. And the proof of the pudding is in the eating, you know. How many of these songs go on to make it in St. Lucia, in Grenada, or in Trinidad, or in New York?
They tell you don't want any investment in our young people, and we are very territorial with those things, you know, but we have to do something about it. We really have to do something about it, whether it's some training in the music or the writing of these calypsos and soca, but we just have to do something about it. We can't continue this way.
Ken Thomas says we are getting the ball and losing our soul.
No comment.
Chevron Stewart says, so why don't people who want to support culture go out and support culture?
Yeah, I think it needs to be something that we sit down and we examine. But I think primarily timing, some investment in our musicians, some investment in writers, calypso writers, ask the private promoters for help in terms of working on some of the mainstream events, asking them to help in terms of the marketing of those events. You know, I always say,
You think marketing is the problem?
for some of them, they're not very appealing. Ask as well for some help from the private sector with financing and funding, whether it be through the rewards that are given for performing in some of these competitions. You know, sometimes you spend more than you earn. A serious conversation needs to be had, you know, and a serious conversation. We can't continue. We just can't continue like we've been going. We need to do some math.
Should carnival be a tourist event, a tourist centric event?
Well, again, it goes back to the why.
And that's a play on a comment that Horatio Skeet makes. Should it be directed at our tourists?
As I said to you, I believe that the indigenous product is important, just not in the last week leading up to Carnival. Just not in that week. I think our timing is off.
So you were saying we should have 10 days of Carnival, but the last 4 days should be left for whom? You?
4 or 5 days, not just
promoters?
for the palette of people, for what people want, for what people want to spend their money on. It should be left for that. Yeah, we have to look at the market trends. We have to see where this is going. We have to examine what is working, and we have to decide as a people, listen, that is not important to us. We don't care how much money we make from Carnival. We don't care how much money we lose from the festival. We don't care. We're not in it to make any money. We're in it to preserve our heritage and culture. So let us.
But you would agree that's a good thing, though. You would agree that the preservation of the culture is a good thing. And that is why I give the example with the hospitals and the roads. We don't make money from hospitals and roads.
As a small island developing country, we should be looking for different economic earners. So we cannot take the money, Jomo. We don't have the luxury as a country. We don't have
how much money does the country spend on Carnival each year? Do you have any idea?
No, I would love to know. And versus how much we earn and how we earn it.
Well, I think we earn a lot because people like you and all of the other private promoters make a lot of money, that's all.
Jomo, the private promoters, they go and sleep. But let me tell you something. A lot of us do this because we're addicted, eh? Not because we earn no big set of money. We addicted. We like the adrenaline rush. For me, I love the creativity. You hear they talk about AI back in all day. I want to execute it. I want to sit down and draw. I want to see whatever I have on paper come to life. That is why we keep doing it. Not necessarily for all the, the money that is made.
Chevron Stewart says, keep mass, soca, and Juve in the final weekend. Move all the other elements to earlier in the season.
Amen.
We have a caller.
Caller, good evening. It's time for your voice.
Yes, good day. How are you? So I was just tuning in.
No, that's okay. Just make your comment. You don't have to tell us that you just tune in.
Yes. So I observe when someone calls in about culture and what the importance. What persons have to understand, culture changes when times evolve, culture change. And there are certain things that we were doing then, we are not doing now. And so people have to accept that culture do change. However, we still have to keep the key core essence of our culture and what we're rooted and grounded in. But at the same time, there must be a blend and a mix. And I think people forget, because Carnival really started where people to just be free to express themselves, and then from some of the cultural aspects of who we are as a person we develop, and some of these culture that we develop is not our own. Like, for example, Pan didn't start from St. Vincent, nor Calypso, nor Soca. You understand? So we take others' culture and we make it a part of who we are as a people, and we have to understand that that is what we are doing in society. And so as culture evolves, we evolve with it, but we must keep the root of who we are, so to make us different. Every Caribbean country, everybody are coming to see the same carnival, but what makes you different? That is why it is still important to connect with your culture. And so the monkey band and so on, those things being involved should be there, and the core essence that CDC itself supposed to invest the money to make sure that those things represent who we are as a people. But then the private shows and have the right to get what they want. So there's a mixed bag. So when the tourist comes to St. Vincent and the Grenadines, they get the opportunity to choose. And so some people are making noise about what the private promoters are doing, and it's affecting the culture. But how much Vincentian want to go? Because CDC had several events and they were poorly turned out except Soca Monarch. Now who to blame? And then you're talking about you want to save the culture. But if we only focus on those things, are Vincentians going to show up? Remember, Carnival was made for us to be free, for us just to express ourselves, to just have fun. And part of fun and excitement is the evolvement of culture and what the market is offering. Yeah, so that's me just sharing my point.
All right, sir. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Well,
yeah, we have to have a nice round table, Jomo. We got to decide what stays and what goes. And this is not Cherise Latoya DeRoche John saying this. This is the palette of the customers. These are the people who are coming in for the festival. I think some data need to be collected at our airports, our ports of entry, in relation to what people are coming to St. Vincent for, what they're willing to spend money on, so that when we make decisions, we can make them from an informed place, from an informed, based on some facts and not with our emotions.
I take that point. I remember in my carnival column last year, I said one of the things that the Ministry of Tourism and Ministry of Culture should be able to tell us is who came, where they came from, and if we could even get an approximate of how much money each person spent. It is said sometimes that when tourists come, like the people on tourist liners, that is spent on average of $7, I think between $7 or $17 for a trip that might last $6-7 hours. We need to do a similar thing for Carnival.
Yeah, the data on how much they spent, they could perhaps get that when they're leaving. When they after the festival, what did they enjoy the most? What was most frustrating for them? Because it's an overall experience we want to create for our those coming into our island, But the palette for the consumer has changed. It has definitely changed from 25 years ago. And I am fearful that if we don't re-examine where we are now, let us put aside our own personal preferences and look at the facts and examine what we want to get out of this thing, the preservation of heritage and culture, or the economic benefits. Let us look at what we want to get out of it. If we want to get both, is it working? Because right now we offer both. Is it working? Is it not working? And make some decisions going forward. But we definitely have something that is special here that can put us ahead of the rest of the region.
What is it that is special that can put us ahead of the region?
Oh, I think
what do we have that's so special?
Our energy, the Vincentian energy and hospitality is like It's not like any other. When you speak to people who come in for the festival, you know, the hospitality, the energy of the people, it's quite different. We say we don't party normal. We definitely don't party.
But is that really true though? I mean,
It's
I've gone
different.
to places where you have
Now we don't
how is it
party
different
normal.
how is it different than Grenada or Montserrat or Bahamas? How? Please. I think that's just nationalist hype.
No. We have something here that's very special. Very, very special.
Well, Vinci is a special place. I mean, it's a majestically beautiful place. And that's why I was talking in my column about trying to market some of those things. But
Actually going to
this
take
notion that
some tourists down to Bequia immediately following Carnival. And I was asking the boat if they had a lot of persons from who came in for Carnival come down to Bequia immediately following the festival on Wednesday and Thursday and Friday. And the boatmen said a whole lot, especially regional tourists. A lot of them wanted to see Bequia. So the boats were filled with persons going down for the day just to see the island. So even that type of data we need.
how did Beckway get that kind of marketing?
Well,
Because maybe that's what St. Vincent needs.
Yeah, the ones that went with me, they've always heard about Bequia, but they've never
Right, but that's
been.
what I'm saying. How did Beckway get that kind of marketing?
Not sure. Maybe through the national efforts of our tourism product, you know. But they wanted to go, and they said a lot of regional tourists were down there for the 2-3 days after Carnival. Those are the type of packages we need to be offering.
It's really unfortunate that we don't have somebody in the city. I was wondering. I remember years ago, it seemed as though we used to get more regional people coming in for Carnival, Trinidadians, Barbadians. I don't know how much of that we have now. Do you detect those kind of people coming to your events? I mean, regional revelers coming to your events?
Regional people?
Yeah, like from Trinidad, Barbados, Grenada.
Yes.
But is there an abundance in the ways in which I thought we used to have them before?
Yeah, we have a lot of regional. Well, I could speak for our events, and we have a lot of regional clients that come to party. They do. I'm not sure if they're coming to attend the CDC events. You know. Yeah, I'm not sure. But
I don't know. Do you pay a lot of attention to what's happening like in Trinidad and Barbados? Jude Shepard is saying Trinidad ran into the same problems you're pushing for, and they're now trying to get back on track. Barbados pushes culture and not these feds to rescue their carnival. Do you have any way of?
Yeah, I've read somebody has sent me Jude's comment. You know, I don't take anything personal. She don't want to put carnival out of carnival. You know, I want us to benefit as a country. I want us to capitalize on the economic benefits of a national festival. That is what she would like. Our country to benefit financially from this has nothing to do with me. I could pack up flyer and say that's the end of that. You know, and I could say I've done it for 10 years. I could not. I could come back next year. That is, you know, that's my personal investment in our festival. But I want us to focus here on the issues. This is not just a business venture. This is a love for carnival. This is me wanting us to make some money so that we can further develop our product and further develop our country. I want us to see it for what it is. Okay?
I saw there's a comment from Jude where he says that Trinidad is trying to move away and is now trying to go back. What is Trinidad doing and trying to go back? I got the feeling That's some of
I had a Trinidad in my house with me for the entire
some of
festival.
my own reading. Let me just develop the point, please. That Trinidad, it seems that we had the same kind of fall off. We don't have the packed tents, calypso tents as we used to. We don't have the endless private parties in Trinidad. I'm not so sure if the roads are as packed as they used to be packed 10, 15, 20 years ago. And how much of that is an evolution away from what we had, in the sense that people had less things to do 20, 25 years ago. So Carnival Monday and Tuesday was an event. I recall the days when you get into Kingston and you could not walk the street.
Yeah.
Carnival Tuesday, I came into Kingston, I could have easily walk. I parked my car in Parsley and I was able to walk all the way up.
To live
Heritage Square
going around back
in 15
street,
minutes.
and we jam into bands. You know, people playing the bass guitar and the disc going around, touching them. They were amazing. But times have changed, Jomo. Our attendance is down, and we are holding on to what used to be. That is the fact and the reality. We get offended by it, but we are holding on to what used to be. We have to move away from that. We have to find a balance. We have to find a balance that works for all. Now, some may argue that not everyone has the finances to afford all-inclusive parties. Where is Carnival for the man who don't have the money, who don't have the income? It used to be in street bars, in Uncle Ricky Bar, back in the day. We don't have street bars like that anymore. You know, in terms of public washrooms, Jomo, let's face it, we don't even have a decent public washroom or two on the two ends of town. So
yeah, that's a real problem.
So that the places smell, they don't have this foul stink.
Yeah, when we have Carnival, we have to prefer rain.
Yes, when we have Carnival, so we can't go into town and hang out by street bars. Used to be a thing that used to keep people occupied, and you used to hear all different types of music. DJs used to make some money there playing. We don't even have two decent washrooms in town so that we keep the place smelling. You take the average tourist want to go in town to something that doesn't smell right or doesn't. No. So we have to examine the product. We're not saying to throw out the entire, I would never say that, but I do think that we need some rescheduling. We need to look at what is included in the latter weekend and what comes a bit earlier. We also need some serious investment in training for our calypsos and our music men. We need some serious rewards for them too. You know, how much more can we go up? How much more can we give them? I personally, I would love to see pageantry back in our carnival. We are carnival without a carnival queen. How can we have carnival without a carnival queen?
You know, a queen of the bands and so on? Queen of the band and queen of the band?
A carnival queen, a beauty queen. Oh, we could have carnival without a carnival. Who is the queen of carnival?
I'm a vegetarian, so I have long stopped going to the meat market, so I could do without the carnival queen.
I would love to see a carnival queen back in carnival at some point. And the rest of the region is doing it. Let's not fight it. You know, I am tired of us fighting it for the sake of...
Fighting what?
Staying as we are. Keeping the product that is not working because we think it should be how it was 20 years ago. Let us find something that is working for everybody.
But listen, if you are saying that the private parties are working, you could well say that we could abandon Carnival, do away with Carnival, and then we just have private parties whenever we have them, in a much the same way that we might have private parties in around Easter time or...
And if they don't want us in Carnival anymore, then, well, Jude has said it here tonight, and saying, kick us out. Kick us totally out of Carnival. Absolutely no, if all of the private promoters are kicked out, as in we are not given permission to have anything, and the indigenous product stands, people believe that everybody will be back. And I say to the caller that, called much earlier, I think, see how it goes. See how it goes. I don't think people have the palate anymore for that. They're not interested.
In what?
In the going to park, if there's an option at the same time. They're interested in it, but at another time.
Do you get the feeling? I said this at the beginning. I'm gonna say it now. We're coming to a close. I think we're setting up a false narrative. I don't think that the people who have the patronage at the traditional events in the park, with the possible exception of Soca Monarch, I don't think that's because people have a choice and prefer to go to Latoya John's Flair. I think the event that is being presented at the park is not sufficiently attractive to pull the person. So I think those are two different things. Don't you think so?
I agree that is not sufficiently attractive. But I agree it's also competition. If you're asking me to choose between A and B, I am going to choose the one that is most attractive to me.
But young people generally might go to Soca Monarch and not come to Flair. Because most of them may not be able to afford Flair. I don't what was Flair's cost this year?
$325 we started.
$325. And Soca Monarch was what?
Not sure.
$100, $120. Maybe some people.
Really, 120? Okay.
150. Oh, it was 150. Wow.
Really?
Right. I don't know. I'm asking.
Okay, not sure.
Interesting. But young people, most, I think.
Some young people, I used to be in Soca Monarch too. I love the energy, I love the whatever, but after a while, Jomo, you get that is no longer interesting and appealing.
No, but it might not be interesting and appealing to you.
Who it is interesting and appealing to. But as you get older, you might, but another group of young people are gonna come where that is their interest. So all I am saying as we end this program, what I am saying is do not stop my party.
How do you respond to Winston says those private events, if they're held outside of carnival season, people from overseas and come to wouldn't fly in for them. How do you respond to something like that?
And we keep hearing that, so we keep saying, if all of the private promoters were to say, okay, let's do a weekend, let's see what will happen. I don't think people understand that the palette has changed. They are knocking the messenger here, They're knocking the messenger here. I want us to study what's around us too. Study the rest of the region. Somebody, I was reading through Facebook and somebody was saying that in St. Vincent, we are still paying to attend the Soca Monarch and those competitions. We are still paying a fee to attend those competitions. But in the rest of the Caribbean, those things are for free. So I turned to my Trinidadian house guest and I said to her, is your Soca Monarch for free? And I think she said to me, yes. And I said, but why? And she said, because the audience was declining so much in order to have an attendance in the park, they had to open up. So the last couple of shows were free.
Well, one of the reasons why Trinidad might be able to do that, though, is that Trinidad has a bigger commercial class who may be able to do a lot of the sponsoring.
Sponsorship in Trinidad in comparison.
Then you can open it up to the masses. That's what the same thing is. So we have a very risk-averse commercial class in St. Vincent who don't want to contribute. Who contribute little and nothing.
They have had to open up their markets to allow patrons to come in to look at the show, and they're evolving. They might go back in 2 years' time to charge in. This is what I'm saying to Vincentians. You know, we have to adapt. We have to change. We have to adapt. We can't just stay the same. Other countries are doing it.
No. But
Change.
Latoya, that's a dangerous argument, you know. The fact that other countries are doing it. I mean, we may get to a point where other countries are saying, for mass, we're gonna walk around naked. Do we do that because other people are walking around naked? I mean, in Brazil, they just paint their bodies and they walk around. Do we do that? Are you recommended that we follow that slippery slope to nowhere?
No.
Okay.
I would not say that I agree with that part of our carnival, personally. I do not agree with that personally. But I am saying to you,
how much dancing Latoya, take place at a private event? I get the impression. I saw someone says here, who's it? People pay hundreds of dollars, they dress nicely. This is why I call them fashion shows. They dress nicely, stand up around a table. Everybody has their phone, they're taking pictures, they post it on Instagram, and they say that's mass.
Yeah, that is what they want to do.
Right, but is that mass? Is that carnival? Is that?
It's carnival for them. It is carnival for them. That is what they want to enjoy as carnival. That's what they want to enjoy as carnival, Jomo. And we have to get with it.
But don't you think that's what people are saying when they're saying, okay, we can take this out of traditional cultural events that we had and have these private events any place? Because if that is carnival for you,
if we had to remove all of this, you can't charge us any taxes, because the notion is that you are charging us these high exorbitant taxes so that the money could be put back into the festival.
Well, so that's something that should be looked at, because I don't understand how people pay VAT on an event that has not yet sold. I don't know what the legality of that at all. So suppose you're projecting to sell 1,000 tickets and you only sell 300. What happened?
VAT will refund you.
Oh, they refund?
I guess so. That never happened. We always owe VAT.
Yeah. Well.
Yeah.
You have generated. I tell you this though. You can go back and look at the feed. There's a lot of comments, good, bad, or indifferent, to many of the things that you said tonight. So thank you for coming on. I truly appreciate it.
Right now, you see, when you try to effect this type of change, you get plenty licks. You get plenty licks before people could say, okay, you know what? We ain't really want she know, but maybe she have a point. We should all sit down and see how we could work this thing out so that our local indigenous product does not suffer and people coming into our country gets to enjoy the festival. It will take a long time before many of them say, you know what, she had a little point, eh? Right now, they just don't want to hear it because this is what we are used to. And I am presenting a different scenario, something that is very different, something that offers a different perspective.
Mm-hmm. All right, Latoya. Ndora John, thank you so much for coming on. It's 10 p.m. Thank you. I am delighted to have you on. You're a good voice. Come again. Listen, people. Thank you all, those of you who called. I'm glad you called. Thank you most of all for those of you who stayed at home, didn't call, didn't comment, didn't say anything, but you spent 2 hours with us. There's so many other things that you could have done, but guess what? You stayed with Voices. For this edition, we hope you come again. Remember, read, pay close attention, because what you don't know can kill you. Until next week, this is Jomo Thomas saying good night from Voices.
WeFM 99.9 presents Voices, a talk show that's not just new, it's